Hello, my name is Ben Gates. I direct campus ministry here at Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne, and Indiana Institute of Technology. And this is another edition of what we call the Campus Ministry Business Forum Luncheon. What we do is we ask a local entrepreneur, CEO, business leader in the region to come and have a lunch with some of our students here at IPFW, primarily business students, but it also depends upon the profession or the career path of the speaker. Today we've got a number of communication students with us as well. But it's a great opportunity for our students to interact and ask questions of those who have been successful in their career and in the marketplace here in northeastern Indiana. Today I'm delighted that Melissa Montana is joining us. Melissa is the first female presenter that we've asked to sit with our students at the lunch, and we've had five white males up to this point, so we decided it was time to change things up. Melissa is a radio personality here in Indiana. She also is the president and CEO of Star 88.3 Network, and so she provides a unique perspective on what makes for successful business. She's going to talk about the importance of character and integrity in the marketplace as well. And I think you're going to really enjoy watching this interaction between Melissa and the students. So thanks again for tuning in today. And without any further ado, I'll turn the presentation over to Melissa.
Guys, how are y'all doing? Everybody good? Everybody good? I know it's quiet in the room. This makes me very nervous. Not in front of people because it's quiet, because my life, as you should know if you're in media at all or broadcasting at all, it's about keeping noise going the whole time. Do you ever think about that? Some people are like, I need my peace and quiet. No, to me, quiet means something's wrong, because it means the radio's off the air. So I need something constantly going. It makes me feel comforted, actually. So feel free to talk, ask questions. I love that. I love to interact with people. And just for the sake of, I know that Ben already did an intro, but hi, I'm Melissa Montana. I'm with Star 88.3 Radio. I'm the CEO and president of Star Network, which means we're Star Educational Media Network is the name of our company. We're a non-for-profit organization, just like the Red Cross or the Heart Association. We're a 501c3, because that might be a question you have or not even think about. We are a non-commercial station, but we play businesses on the air, so business supports and donors, and we survive that way also. But the majority of our support comes from listeners, just like you. People that listen and give during our times of fundraising on the air and other times that we do fundraising. So it's an interesting medium. And I tell you, God put me here. I wish I had known that I was going to love it this much. I wish I could have had that forethought. So I'm kind of glad that you are here, and maybe this will spark an interest for you, or maybe not even if it's in broadcasting, but in something that you're doing, because I will encourage you to do something you love, do something you're passionate about. You've heard the old saying that if you do something you love and passionate, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's the same way for me. I mean, I work a lot of hours, but I don't feel like it's work, because I love what I do. I love to impact lives. I love to make a difference in our community. I love to help others, and constantly coming up with ideas and creative things that we can do to reach our community. That's just what we're doing all the time. And now our slogan is Give Love. And so we're getting ready to give love at Christmas. And we give love the whole month of February, which is Valentine's month. So we give love that way, and we help people in need. We get nominations from people that know someone that's hurting, and we try to show up on their doorstep. We knock on the door, surprise them. They're usually crying by the time I get to the door. I don't know if it's because it's me, they're crying that I'm there, or they're happy. I think it's because they're happy. But we show up to the door and we just say, God hasn't forgotten you. We want you to know we heard your story, and God hasn't forgotten you. And we're here to love you and encourage you. And we come with a big gift basket too, which is kind of fun. But you know what I've noticed is that people are so thankful that you just show up. I get to be in a medium, in a business, in an industry where we get to show up on the radio, yeah, to thousands and thousands of people. But outside of that, we need to all do something that allows us to show up in someone's life. So if you're in media, that's one way, but you could be in a business that has nothing to do with media and say, well, how does that make a difference for me? I mean, how am I going to show up? Find a way. Find a way. Make money. Make money and find a way to bless other people. You know, I'm always saying that at home to my daughter. Like, find a way. It's okay to make money, but find a way to give back. And so I happen to be in a place where we get to give back. We get to, on the air, share the hope of Jesus. On the air, we get to tell people you can make it and it's all right and your life matters. We get to do that every day, and that's so powerful, so exciting to get to do that. But on top of that, as we talk about the things we get to do, you're in a business arena now and you're studying business. There's business that has to be done so that we can do ministry. So we have to do business too. It's not my most fun part of the job. I don't love that the most, but I know it's necessary. So we have a budget that we have to watch. We have to balance the budget. I have to be careful of spending. I have to make sure that, you know, my people are taken care of. I have to make sure what we're spending money on, you know, is careful and it's within the budget and it's not too far, and is it worth that investment, and how do we get support for that? We do a lot of fundraising. As my role as CEO and president, I have to do a lot of fundraising. And years ago, it wasn't quite like that. All of our fundraising was on the air. So we'd get on and do a pledge drive, and we call it now a partnership drive. We would raise our funds that way. But right now, in my role, I have to go out and I raise hundreds of thousands of dollars on my own outside of what we do on the air, because that's what my role is requiring of me now. And I'm okay with that, because if you believe in what you're doing, you don't have a problem asking for support. So do something you love. I love what I do. Oh my goodness. I'm just so, whoo, I love it. I can't believe I get to do this. I still think back to when I was a little girl. I was 8 years old. I was hit by a truck, and that should have taken my life. It should have required my life. But I knew then, even as an 8-year-old, I knew that God had a call in my life. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew that I could have been gone and should have been. This was 4 days before Christmas. It wasn't my fault, but I was a little girl. It was back in the day when some of you adults may remember this, when we had grocery stores in your neighborhood. You know, you didn't have to go to the big Kroger or Walmart because they weren't big back then, but they were farther away. And so I was just getting a pound of butter. My mama was cooking right before Christmas, and she sent her little girl across the street to get a pound of butter. And as I stepped back on the sidewalk leaving the store, a pickup truck didn't see me, and I was this little girl, and he slammed into me and just sent me flying. And I landed in a pile of blood, and the neighbors came out. I landed almost in front of our house. And so I can only imagine what my mama must have felt. I can't imagine what my dad must have felt. And my brother comes to the door, and the neighbor says, "It's your sister. She's just been hit by a truck." Of course, they come running out. My mom, I just found out a few weeks ago she was hysterical. And I can only imagine that she must have been. But I knew then God spared my life, and I survived. Can you tell? I did. I made it. And I knew the enemy didn't want me to live because he knew I would talk. He's right. I'm trouble for him. I want you to be trouble for the enemy in your life. I want you to do a job, work a career where you're like, what do you mean be trouble? I don't mean get in trouble with the law. I mean be in trouble with the enemy. Do something that makes such an impact on people's lives, whether you're in corporate America or you're in broadcasting or you're in sports or whatever the arena is. Do something that matters. Make your life matter. And you'll get to go to the top. My mom always says, cream rises to the top. So be excellent. You'll just get to the top. You know, I'm not good enough to figure this out, how I got here. God created this for me because I was the one that said, I'll do it. I'll do it. God, let me do it. I want to do it. And I was just willing and open to do it. And something happens when your spirit is willing and open. God will open doors for you in your business. And so I've found favor in my life, favor in business, so that I can do ministry. And so I want to encourage you to have that also. A little bit of background here. About 8 years ago, our station was put up for sale. And I was the general manager at the time. And I knew that we could all lose our jobs. It was a scary time, very scary. My whole team was wondering, what are we going to do? And at the same time, I felt like, all right, the enemy's trying to knock us down, trying to get rid of us. And I just don't believe in no. No doesn't work for me very well. Someone says, can't be done. I'm like, oh, you didn't just say that. You didn't just say no, because now I've got to prove that it can be done. So don't look at it as no when someone tells you no. You're going to get a lot of no's in your life. Some of you older adults, have you heard no a few times in your life? No. No doesn't have to be no. No just might mean wait. God's saying, hang on. I got another plan. Just hang on, but don't be discouraged by no. I've been told no a lot of times, and it just didn't work. God had a plan, And so yeses started coming after I didn't receive the no. And when I found out that we were up for sale, I told my team, I'm like, game on. Let's do this. Come on, let's do this. So we had to find funds. We needed $1 million in a couple of weeks, literally in a couple of weeks, and we didn't have the money. Well, God began to come through, and a source came through that helped fund us to be able to do it. If we would broadcast them and market their business and their company, their organization, then they would give us the money for marketing, which would save the day for us, for me to put on the table $1 million. And at the final hour, the 11th hour, which has been my life, it's been a lot of 11th hour miracles. And you know what? When you don't have it, that means God can show up and provide a miracle for you. So don't be afraid. If you're like, what am I going to do? We're going to fail. I can't make it. All right. Kind of get excited about it. Now that means God's getting ready to show up and do something amazing for you that's out of your control. You want things to be out of your control a little bit because then you have to cling to Jesus. Can I get a witness in here? Is that amen? If life is always easy for you, then you won't see the hand of God in your life. You won't see the miracles because there's no miracle unless there's a challenge. There's no victory unless you've experienced some defeat, right? It's that comeback story. We've talked about that on the air lately, that comeback story in your life. If it's not easy, all right, don't go pout about it. Don't go be mad about it. Don't be worried about it. Just say, God, what do you have for me? What can I do now? How am I supposed to handle this? And watch God go in your life. I have so many stories of miracles because it was difficult, because it was a challenge, because it wasn't easy. So now I just look at it as, all right, bring it on. Let's do this thing. God spared my life as a child, and I've seen him through my life do miracles. And then he puts me into broadcasting because he knew I would talk. He knew I would want to say things, and not just in broadcasting, but Christian broadcasting. For me, that was my calling, is to be able to do that. So I get to tell people, yes, you can. Jesus has an answer for you. God will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. And that I'm excited about. So I'm very bold in my testimony and what I feel and believe. And so bring somebody to me that doesn't know the Lord. I hope to win them over. Tell them about Jesus. But in our business, we still have to do business. We still have to raise the funds. We still have to, because we have 9 frequencies now. When we went back those 8 years when we were put up for sale and didn't know what would happen, and the money came through at the final hour, huge victory, huge miracle within our industry. Everybody was high-fiving because we were all in it together. They were praying for us. And then it happened. We were able to sign on the dotted line. But first I had to form with an executive team, put a team together, a new non-for-profit organization. Because we're non-for-profit, some legal things you may not know, a non-for-profit cannot be owned by an individual. Or I would have tried to own it just to save it. I had to form a non-for-profit organization to buy us out. Crazy, I know. It's never been done in our industry before. No one has ever formed an organization within our industry to buy themselves out, because the part of us that we still were a part of, we didn't own. The company, the organization that owned us still owned that. So I had to form a new company and work on behalf of this company and that company, find the funds to buy us out. Long story short, it worked, and it was totally a God thing. So we were able to buy ourselves out, and that's why I named ourselves Star Educational Media Network. The educational part comes because with the FCC, when we're a non-for-profit organization on a non-for-profit band on the dial, we have to have some kind of educational bent to it legally. So that just helps the FCC understand that we get it. We understand that's our license, is an educational license, being a non-for-profit. So that's why the word is in there, but let me point one thing out. Star Educational Media Network. I could have called us a radio station, and it would have been this big in our minds. I named it, and I said, let's call ourselves something bigger than we are and try to live up to that. Name yourself something bigger than you are. Call yourself to yourself, blessed. I'm successful. I'm going to do great things. I'm going to see God do movement in my life. So we are named a network. And I'm like, let's see what God does. And shortly after that, we acquired another frequency and a door opened for another frequency. And just a couple of years ago, 3 more frequencies. All of a sudden, we became 9 frequencies in a few short years. And we became a network. But I bet you it would have hampered us if I'd called us a radio station. If we'd all agreed to be in a radio station, we would have been just that one signal, one frequency. And that would have been okay, but I believe in doing something bigger than yourself. I encourage you to do something bigger than yourself. Dream for something bigger than yourself. But I don't know how to do that. That's too big. It's out of my reach. All right, do it then. Do something bigger than yourself. Call yourself something bigger than you are. Believe in your life and in your heart that you're more than you can even imagine, and watch God go. This has been the most exciting, incredible, horrible, awful, fabulous, amazing journey of my life. I love it that it hasn't been easy. I love it that it's been a challenge. But there are days I'm like, okay, God, this one, can we do this easy? Can we do this one challenge easy? And He usually gives me something that's a challenge. And then when it's successful, you know what it feels like to win a game? Ever been in sports? Have you ever won a contest? Have you ever done a paper that you've worked on so hard and you got a good grade and you're like so relieved? The relief that comes after that, miracle that comes after that is so rewarding. I want you to dream bigger. I want you to think bigger. Don't stay in your little box. Think outside that box and say, I'm going to believe for God to do something greater in my life. And so here we are. I'm the CEO and president of this network, and I'm blown away. I'm humbled, I'm honored, and I'm blown away. I can't believe that little girl from Hannibal, Missouri. Anybody even know where Hannibal is? Hometown of Mark Twain, Tom Sawyer on the Mississippi River? Yeah, it's right on the border of Illinois. Yeah, from a little bitty town, 20,000 people. I never would have dreamed as a little girl that I'd get to do this and tell the world about Jesus. All I know is that I remember when I was a little girl, I just remember thinking, I want to tell people about Jesus. I want to tell the world about Jesus. Well, my world was so small, I couldn't imagine how it was going to happen, but God just kept opening doors, changing things. I had to go through some real heartache. I got married, and that took me out of it and took me out of the city and gave me opportunities. And a few years later, He didn't want to do it anymore, so He left. And I'm like, really, God? After we traveled, I thought you had a plan for me. And He's like, I do have a plan for you. It's greater than you can imagine. That plan required me to move here to try to save my marriage, which He moved on and didn't want to stay. And I'm like, Fort what? Are you kidding me? Really? Come on, God. I just moved from Hotlanta. I could have stayed in Hotlanta. I was at a 100,000 watt radio station, one of the largest stations in the nation. And God moved me here. And I came here sad and kicking and crying a little bit and thinking, I can't believe, God, you would have me come here. But okay, it's been a good ride. I guess it's all over with. My life has ended now that I'm here in Fort White, Indiana. God changed Fort White into Fort Wayne, became my home and my family and the greatest opportunities of my life. You see, if you will be where God wants you to be, no matter where the city, the state, or the country is, if you're where God wants you to be, you're going to find great blessing and success like you could never imagine if you're where He wants you to be. Because it's not about the size of the city, it's the size of your heart. And being willing to be open to see what God has. We now are Station of the Year winners again. I just went to Orlando. Don Bittner and I, who's my program director, we went for our radio conferences. And we applied, of course, and we put in all the paperwork and all the work you've got to do to submit an entry. And knowing that we made it down to the top 3, that's incredible. So for our market size, we got the call. And the winner is Star. And I knew when they said Star, because most people go W something. Well, we changed our name to Star on purpose so we'd be more memorable. And when they said Star, I saw it come out of his mouth. I looked at him, I went, oh my goodness. I said, that's us. Let's run to the stage. So we ran the stage, and we got to be awarded Station of the Year. I would have never had that before. Thank you for the little hand clap back there. No, not asking for applause, but thank you. And that's not because of me. It's not because, I'm all that. But I have a wonderful team of people. I have an amazing group of people. Surround yourself with people that are amazing. Work with people that are amazing if at all possible. You may have somebody that works with you that's not all amazing or wonderful. God may want you to bless them. God may want you to be the difference maker to them. So if you have someone that's a little bit of a challenge sometimes, maybe God wants to use you to encourage them to be greater. Maybe no one's speaking into their life. It's not always fun to work with somebody that's negative, but either be the difference maker or ask that God would give them something that would make them happy, that might be different than where you are. And so God's done that over the years. He's brought people along, but I have an amazing team of people, and I couldn't do what I'm doing without them at all. And a great board, wonderful board of people that help govern that. So there's a lot of things you may be asking about it. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for letting me be here. I hope I can encourage you. Do you want to ask any questions now? I'll probably think of things as you ask. Oh yeah, I want to bring that up, because there's a lot of things you might not know about radio and broadcasting. Feel free to ask. You want to just throw it? I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. And all those mic drop things people do, don't do that to a microphone. It's kind of cool, but please, Lynette.
My question is, what are some of the daily routines that you do to keep yourself motivated and encouraged?
That's a good question. First, just again, focusing on Jesus. It feels like when I go to bed at night, whenever I do get to sleep, I just lay there, and every night just like, God, thank you. Thank you for today. Guide me tomorrow. Help me the next day. It's in that constant state of prayer. And I believe in having devotions, and I have my own devotions. I have several that I go to that keep me empowered and encouraged. But I truly believe, there's the scripture that says, pray without ceasing. How do you do that? What? I got to sleep. I got to eat. Now, I believe that means you be in a spirit of prayer. Of praying without ceasing. I can get in the car and I'm praying all the time. Like, God, I just need your wisdom. I need your guidance. Don't you want the king of the universe on your side? Don't you want the man that knows everything in the world to guide you and lead you? I mean, don't you want to tap into that? Plug into that. I need that. I'm automatically just naturally an encouraging person. I'm happy. I mean, typically my life is just, I'm happy. Now I have problems and struggles and I get discouraged, but that's just kind of my personality. So I make sure that I listen to things that are encouraging. I make sure I read things that are encouraging. I make sure I tune into people, ministers and pastors and speakers and books that are encouraging. I try to make sure that I stay focused on that. And you can preach yourself happy or you can preach yourself sad. You can be like, oh, woe is me. This is so awful. Or be like, what am I going to do next? How am I going to solve this? Be solution oriented. Find a way out. Figure it out. Ask God to help you. And just staying, do it for yourself. You can't wait for someone else to do it for you all the time. You need to listen to people that are encouraging and have people around you that are encouraging. But why don't you be the encourager? There's a concept. Why not we wait for somebody else to encourage us? I want to be the encourager. It encourages me to bless others. If you're going through a difficult time, bless somebody else. If my business is struggling, I'm telling you, I don't care what career you're in. If your business is struggling, you're having a hard time at work with somebody, bless somebody. Go love somebody. Give love to somebody. And it will pull you out of that. There's just something beautiful about giving to others. When you're going through a difficult time, all of a sudden, there's that balance of my problems, their problems. You start looking at their problems instead of your problems. The focus is in on them, and you're like, I can help them. I could go give them a gift card. I could bring them some food. I could treat them to lunch. I could give them a coffee. I could surprise them with a note and tell them, I'm praying for you. We have the ability to make ourselves be in a place and a mindset that allows us to be a blessing to others. So did that answer your question? Okay. Who's next? Yes.
So what was the most challenging experience that you go through your professional career, and how do you solve it?
That's great. I think what I mentioned earlier, talking about our station being up for sale, knowing that we all could in a few days lose our jobs. And I truly felt that. I felt like, oh my goodness, that the burden of, and as the leader of the company, I knew I was responsible for my whole team. I mean, they all have jobs and they feed their family with this job at the ministry, at the radio station. I'm like, I can't fail them. And so the responsibility of being a leader too, it's not for everybody, but I feel like everybody is a leader in their own right. I feel like you should always feel like you're a leader, even if you have a boss. We all have people we answer to. Be that leader and make a difference to somebody else. But I think that was probably the most challenging. And to see God bring us through that, excuse me, I just feel like after that, there's not a thing we can't accomplish. You know, I feel like just trust God. Due diligence, though, you have to do your work. We had to talk to people. We had to have meetings. We had to figure out what is it that we need? How would it pull us out? And what was the amount that we needed? What would save the day for us? You know, you had to do your business. So you have to know the numbers. You have to know how much it's going to require. And what if we do this? What if we didn't get it? What were we going to do? We had to have a plan B. What if somebody else bought us? I knew somebody else. I knew a number of somebody else's that could have bought us, and had a conversation with a major network in our country. And I knew they could have our lunch right now. They could have our lunch with cash on the table, no sweat to them. And I was concerned about that. And I, of course, prayed a lot and just believed that God had this. And I thought, nope, this is where God brought me, and He brought my team here. And we had that discussion, and I just said, you know what, brother, I appreciate that, but this is not for you to take. This is not yours. I know you could have my lunch right now. I know you wouldn't sweat at all with $1 million putting on the table. But I believe God called us here. I believe God called me here. And I believe we're supposed to do this. So I need you to not do this. And he said, I honor that. Go get him, girl. I said, yeah, thank you. And hung up and went, oh, I can't believe I just said that. You know, sometimes you have to be bold. Sometimes you have to say things bold with respect. You know, you always want to be respectful. And I think sometimes people say, oh, I'm going to tell them what I think. I'm going to show them. I'll give them a earful. That doesn't work. That just doesn't work. You know, be confident in who you are in the Lord, and be bold with your words, but be respectful. You know, you want to be respectful. And I feel like that opened a lot of doors for us to be respectful and grateful in that. So thank you for asking. Thank you. Who else wants to have the mic? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They've got to hand the mic over to you.
I was wondering, have you written a book, or have you considered writing a book?
Yes, ma'am. I've considered it.
Well,
I've had that suggested to me for many years, and I believe there is a book in my future, definitely, because you're hearing part of the story. There's so much more to my story, and before we end, I'll tell you a little bit more, but I don't want to say much right now to embarrass somebody, but somebody that I know and love in this room. But yes, I'm interested in doing that because I'd love to encourage people to dream big and to believe for greater things. And just some little girl from Hannibal, Missouri that gets to see favor on her life, and I'm nobody in particular. God just let me. So He's no respecter of persons. And I just would love to see you young people that are yet to go out into the world to do business, be excellent at everything you do. Have a great attitude. That would be my first thing. If I want to hire somebody, give me somebody with a great attitude, with a teachable spirit any day over somebody that has a long list of degrees behind their name and some experience. Give me somebody with a teachable spirit, and you can do anything. And so I want to share that with you guys because I want you to be successful. You know, and successful in some people's eyes is just about money, and it's not. You know, I can make a lot more money somewhere else. I can make a ton of money in another city, in another station, in a secular station probably, working in public radio, secular radio. But I'm called here, and you don't get the rewards that I get just serving money. You don't get that. What I get is something I get to take for all eternity in my life and my heart. I get to impact lives. If I could touch one life in this room today, man, it's worth it all. I'll take a pay cut just to do that. It's worth it all. Do something you absolutely love and cherish. And then I'll share more with you in my book down the road someday. Thank you, sister. Appreciate that.
Hey, Melissa. Hi.
Hi.
You mentioned the importance of a team. Could you share a little bit on what you do to help nurture your team and, day by day, weekly?
Sure. Thank you. We do Secret Palette Christmas. That's what we're doing right now. I believe in doing those little things, making notes, sending notes, and I believe in speaking it. It's not easy for everyone to do that in a leadership role, but my friend, if you're in a leadership role, you need to get over that, and you need to be willing to encourage people. You need to be willing to say, hey, thanks for what you did today. That was great. Good job on that project. I appreciate you volunteering the other day. Thanks so much. That was awesome. I'm so thankful you're on my team. It's easy for me to say, And so I feel like it's not easy for everyone to say, but I would say get inspired to do that. And if you're not a real talker like I am, you don't have to be, but you can be a communicator. You can send a note. You can text somebody. You can leave a note on their table or their desk and say, I'm so proud of you. Way to go. Put a candy bar there and something that you know that they love. I do this once in a while. I have everybody fill out a form, and I want all your favorites. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite desserts? What's your favorite food? You know, and we try to every once in a while pop up with something like that. Try to remember people on their anniversaries. They've been at the business how long? Try to remember them when you can. And we just do a lot of special things. We just won Station of the Year, so I wanted to celebrate them. So a lot of times I work with trade because we don't have it in our budget to do a lot of things that I want to do, because my dreaming big would cost a lot of money. My taste is very wealthy, you know. My budget is not. So there are things you can do. So we work with other businesses and companies and ask them, you know, can you trade for advertisement to do this? So I try to do that. We do that for other people, but once in a while, I want to do that for my team. So I surprised them and said, we're all going to lunch. I want you all to be ready at a certain time on this day. A couple weeks ago we did this. And here pulls up a stretch limo. And I picked up my team in a limo because that's not in our budget. So I worked out a trade and a business deal for that. And I wanted them to feel special because we're always giving to other people and we love to give. I mean, that's just our motto. It comes from the top down. Let's give to people. So we do, but I want them to feel loved too. You know, it's kind of like we forget the pastor in the church who's always ministering and leading people. They need to be ministered to too. They need to be loved on once in a while too. They need to be encouraged. So sometimes the people giving need to be encouraged. So if you get people in your office that are volunteers or they're giving extra, they do a great project, give them a gift card for a business, you know, for a luncheon, for a dinner out. Give them a treat. And then we just try to stay, I always use the word team. You know, thank you for saying team. I don't use the word staff. Staff doesn't even, I don't even say staff. To me, I'm like, somebody says, what about your staff? I'm like, who's staff? Who are we talking about? Like, no, I have a team of people because I can't do this by myself. I need my people around me. So when our text messages we have as a group, they're all star team. That's a star team. And I'll go, hey team, how you doing? It's always team. So you can influence other people's lives. I want to encourage you in another area too, kind of playing off of that. You might be on a team someday, and some of you that are younger, that are in college, you're not going to come right out of college and probably get your ideal job. Not likely. You might need to work a job to get to the place you need to be, but you might work in a setting that's not always healthy or comfortable or positive. And I've been there before. That's really hard, and I'm so sorry. Hear me right now, my friend. Hear me now. It's not always easy, but you can make a difference. Just do this for now. Get through it for now with a great attitude. You be the difference maker. If you're like, yeah, but they treat me, okay, you be the difference maker. You be the one with a great attitude. You be the one, I'm going to pick up the slack. Even if my boss doesn't, I'm going to pick up the slack. Because as my mama says, cream rises to the top. Excellence rises to the top. You do things well with a great attitude, it will win. I'm telling you, don't be about competition to other people. Be about being excellent. I've told my team this for years. We're not competing with other people. We might do things similar to some other people. We're not here to compete, we're here to win. Yeah, but you have to compete to win. No, you have to be excellent to win. Excellence wins. Having a great attitude wins. People will recognize you when you're excellent and you have a great attitude. You know, Station of the Year award, I mean, in Fort Worth, Indiana, what I thought years ago, now this is an award-winning place. Known nationwide and around the world, this station is. Not because of me, but because God chose to let me be here, let my team be here, and we see each other as a team with a great attitude. Excellence wins. And so you let your team know, you expect excellence. I'll clean the trash up just as well as they will. I don't have a problem with that. You know, if you're going to be a leader, you need to lead. If you want to be a boss, if you want to be a manager, okay, count numbers. Treat people like they are a number. Do that, and then you'll get nowhere. But if you want to win, be excellent and treat people like you love them. Anything else? That's good. Thank you, Judy. Okay, after her, yeah.
What made you want to go into broadcasting?
I'm a talker. No. No, that really wasn't it. I just, as a child, knew that I just loved to share with people. I mean, this has just been my personality since I've been young. And honestly, I didn't know. I didn't have a clue. I wish I'd known, because I would have done that sooner or studied that sooner. I'm a music major, studied music. I've been in music all my life. I'm a singer and a musician, and did that for years in church, and have performed around the world in several places. And the door opened for me. Someone said, I believe in you. We're starting a new Christian radio station. Back in Little Hannibal, across the Mississippi River, was a Quincy station. That was the big city, because they had, what, 50,000 people? Woo. Yeah. And there was a new Christian station opening up. They started on Sunday mornings listening to Christian radio, Christian music. And I remember hearing it every Sunday morning, like so excited, because I loved it. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's Christian music on the radio, on the country station, you know? I guess that's as close as you could get, right, with a country station. And I just began to listen to it. And I heard that they were raising funds, and I'm like, I knew that I couldn't help at that time. I was a young lady, and I was working hard, and they said, come visit. I went to visit, and he said, we're looking for a female that will be able to go speak to people, that's in music, that's great in front of people. Again, I was young. And I'm like, okay, you want me to find you somebody? He's like, no, we're talking about you. I'm like, me? I'm like, oh, I don't know anything about radio. And that's where it started, in that little radio station. They believed in me, and I quit my job at the eye doctor's office for a time and went to go work for this little radio station. And I didn't make hardly any money, and about starved to death doing it, even though I was living at home, but it still wasn't easy. But that was my door. You might have a door open for you that looks unlikely. I want to say that because you might have an opportunity where you go, you know, I don't know, it's not paying enough. It doesn't give me enough. That little job didn't pay enough, and it didn't give me enough. But I was so excited about it. God sparked an interest in my heart, and I started there and got the bug right away. And shortly after that, I moved to Rockford, where I was trying to save my marriage. Just had gotten married, and went to Rockford, Illinois, and thought, what do I do now? I just started in Christian radio, but nobody's going to want me. I'm new at this. I don't have enough experience. So I went to the Christian station and just thought, I'll apply for a job. Maybe I'll work in the office, you know? And they're like, oh my goodness, our female voice just quit. We need you right away. It's just been that way for me. The doors have just opened for me because God wanted me there. I wasn't smart enough to know. I didn't have any dream for that. I just dreamed big about, I just want to see the world and tell people about Jesus. I didn't know it'd be radio. I thought I was going to have to marry a pastor and stay in a church. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but I wanted to see the world. But I'm like, how am I as a female going to get to share the gospel and do music? And I wasn't sure, but God opened the door for radio. That was a God thing. And then from there, the door opened, and the door opened, the door opened. Then I went to that one station. And there's a lot of years in between there, and we don't have time for all of that. But I know coming from Atlanta to that station I was at, big station, to here to hopefully save my marriage that didn't work, God had a bigger plan. So don't be discouraged along your journey. When you get a road bump, you might go, oh no, now it's all over with. No, it might just be the beginning. What you see as an end is probably a beginning of something amazing in your life. Don't be discouraged, because it's going to happen. You're going to have down the road something, a door is going to close, and you're going to feel like it's all over with. Well, the door closed, it looked like for us a few years ago, put us up for sale. What? Why didn't you come talk to me? Why didn't you just say something rather than just put us up for sale? But it is what it is, and that's what happened. And out of that, we had the biggest miracle ever. We own the station, you know. I'm the head of a company that owns the station, and it still has never been done in our industry. Go God, huh? Yay. Good question, thank you. Okay, I know you had a question, but we've got to wait for the mic. Unless you're going to throw it and toss it down, but I don't think so.
So I can say that you're a successful woman right now. So if you look back to your 15 years ago or 20 years ago, that day, do you set your goal and then, you know, go through that goal, or you try many things and find out that what I'm good at?
Yes.
Yes. Do you think what is important to set the goal first and go through the goal, or try many things and find out what you're good at and do it?
That's a good question. Very good. She's asking, you know, do you try a bunch of things and see what works, or you just have one goal and go for that? It's both for a lot of people, because I bet we can go around the table here, especially some of the adults that have experienced life. I've done a number of things, but some of it's been in this wheelhouse, you know, with media and broadcasting. But before, you know, I taught piano lessons when I was younger. You know, I worked in a daycare when I was younger. There was no media opportunity because I was in a small town. You know, I heard a couple of kids on the local radio station because they had a broadcast class in high school. You know, I didn't have anything to really dream towards. So for me, it was a little different. All I knew is that I wanted to be available. I think if you're in a business class right now, you probably have some goals. I would say set you a goal and go towards that, because you can, because you're already here. I didn't have that. You know, from a family that didn't have a lot of money. We wondered how we were going to eat sometimes. I knew I needed to work. So what helped me was learning to work. God needed to teach me at a young age to work hard, because work produces finances, and then I can pay my bills, and then I can do greater things for God. And so there was a process. But at your age, especially in college, have a goal. Absolutely, you want to have a goal. But I'm telling you that as you have a goal, don't be distracted or discouraged when you get sidetracked. You're like, hey, that's not what I expected. I've gotten sidetracked a number of times, but I needed that to get to where I am today. So my advice to you is don't be afraid of the distraction or a sidetrack, or God might open a door for you. Take every opportunity you can to learn. Somebody say amen in here. Any opportunity you can to learn. Learn everything you can. I mean, even back when I was a young person working after school and in summers raising funds for myself because my parents couldn't afford a lot. Just even taking care of kids all summer long taught me about discipline, about being organized, being on time, keeping control, having a solution whenever the kids are freaking out. You know, I'm like, well, what did that have to do with my future? I asked myself years ago. I'm like, no, you know what? Everything I've done up to this point. So if you're working some part-time jobs now, trying to get to your big goal, it all matters. Learn where you are, do it with a great attitude, and God will use that. I promise you, God will use that. So if you have a goal, have your goal in sight. Go for the goal, but don't be discouraged by some sidetracks or distractions, because God might want to use that to teach you something greater. I mean, all my little distractions have been great for me. I'm like, why did that happen? Oh my goodness, I didn't want that. Oh, now I look at it and go, okay, I can use that. That was good. Does that help you? Okay, thank you. Good question. Mic time. Somebody going to sing in between mic passing. Who's the singer in the room? Yeah, well, it's not my time. Yes, ma'am.
Being somebody who aspires to become a leader, is there any advice that you would give to someone like me?
That's a great question. Some of the things that I've already said, talking about including people as a team, looking at people as a team. If you look at people as you're above them, or you're looking down on them, or I'm the boss, the minute you think you're the boss, you're not a leader. The minute you feel like, I want to serve my people, I want them to be excellent, because if my people win, I win. You know, if my team has a great opportunity, we all win. You know, that Station of the Year wasn't mine. It was all of ours. You know, it wasn't just the program director. It wasn't just the person on the morning show. It wasn't just the development person. It was all of us together. And so if you go in, again, serve people. You want to be a great leader? Serve people. That's my greatest advice right there, is to learn to love people and serve them. And if you don't love people, you need to act like you love them. Get over yourself, because there'll be days you don't feel loving towards them, you know. Oh, there's definitely days. People that I love, it's just like your family. You know how you love your family and someday they get on your last nerve. You're like, oh my goodness, I do not want to be with them tonight. I'm so mad at them. But I love them, and I will serve them. And if you can love and serve people, you will be a great leader. Does that help? Thank you. Good question. Thank you. Who else? I love questions. Yes, ma'am. Ask another one. There's no limit here, I understand. I don't think you have a quota.
Have you met any of the Christian artists face to face?
Do you have all day?
Probably a lot of them.
Absolutely, yeah. I can't even, the list is long, yeah. We have our star stage every year that we do. Of course, the artists that we promote, anybody you promote, that we promote on the radio, I've probably met them, you know. There's only a few that maybe the concert happens or I don't go to it, but we've we book in our own concert every year, Star Stage, in July as part of Three Rivers Festival. It's our Christian music night. So I book in all of those artists. So obviously I've known them. I have a lot of them on my cell phone. We text, we talk to each other. Absolutely good people. It's a pleasure to get to know them and find out their little quirks and things they like and what their dessert is and what they like to do. Yeah, good people. Do you have somebody you like in particular?
I like Lecrae and Skillet, and I know a lot of the songs, but some of them, you know, it's hard
Sure.
to name the, you know, but a lot of the songs I do like. I think her name is Lauren
Daigle.
Daigle, yeah, Lauren
Oh,
Daigle,
yeah.
and
She's precious.
and Carrie Job.
Yes, yes. I just
Yeah.
interviewed Carrie Job because she was just here in concert, so she was on my show.
Okay.
And Lauren Daigle I've met, yeah, in an interview too. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
she's awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, good. You got good taste.
Thanks.
Melissa, could you talk about the changes you see in media that might be affecting you in particular in the station, and how do you adapt to change when it's coming so fast?
It's a good question. Very good question. Well, media, because of technology and social media, that changes us. You know, I'm now doing more live Facebook interviews. Some of you may have been watching The Voice and seen Addison Agan, who's our local hero in vocal world, you know. A lot of people loving her, and she's just won her knockout round. You know, I did a live Facebook video with her in the studio. She and her family are listeners, and her mom was so thankful that she could come on and get to talk about her faith, because on The Voice on NBC, they don't talk a lot about that. Sometimes they do, but she got to come on Christian radio and come on and talk about that. So we have something different that we get to do than a lot of other stations do, talking about faith, and we're thankful for that and get to do that. But we also have things that we have to be aware of. We call ourselves family friendly, so we want to own that. So we're careful of what we say on the air. We're careful of what we say and do, not just because the FCC says so, but because we're a Christian station. But those little things are things that we do because we're Christian, but there's a lot of government that we have to deal with, and most people don't realize that. We are government regulated. All media is. Now, we're allowed to be Christian radio, but we have files and paperwork that will blow your mind that we have to accommodate, that we have to fill out. And there's reports, there's biannual, there's annual, there's quarterly, there are monthly reports that have to go in a proper file, that if they're not filed right, and this is the way with all media, it's not just us, but we're a part of all media. So you're like, well, you're a Christian station, you wouldn't do anything wrong. Well, no, we wouldn't, but we still have legal guidelines we have to follow. So there's a way that we can fundraise. There's a way we can't. On our station, you'll hear businesses, but you will never hear, come now, buy now, $19.95 this week, special deal, come get the offer. That's highly illegal for us. We can't say prices unless we're mentioning a concert that's a non-for-profit coming up, but we can't say there's a sale, there's something going on. It can never be time dated. It can't be time specific. Those are legal things that we have to follow all the time. And those are things that have been in place for years. But over the years, there have been guidelines. A new FCC law just came out a few weeks ago. And, you know, I get them sent to me. And, of course, we have FCC attorneys. We have attorneys locally. We have an FCC attorney. We have people that are in our world that have to protect us and tell us what to do and what not to do. A new law just came out that we can't do very much fundraising now for other organizations. And we love to give. We love to help give. And this week you'll notice we're helping the Fort Wayne Rescue Mission. We love their ministry, love what they're doing. So we're helping them, but we can't do much of that anymore. That's a new law that they just brought down. And we're like, okay, we don't do a lot anyway. We'll talk about things, but as far as on-air fundraising, like in the next couple of days, we're going to be asking for your support, your money to go to them. None of it goes to us, it will go to them. But we are now regulated by that, highly regulated by that. Social media has caused a whole different world for us with the Facebook and with, you know, people are tweeting now, of course, and you got Snapchat and you got Instagram and other various areas that people are using. And how do we stay up with that? How are we staying effective, and what's the best way to handle that? We're constantly in communication with people that do it. Like, how many times should you? Is it too much to do it this? How many times do you post? You know, is it annoying? Not long ago, somebody said, don't post more than 4 times a day. You'll annoy people. We just got with a new company that's helping broadcasters all over the nation. They're like the latest, hottest organization that we're working with. And they're like, if you got something relevant, post it. Do it as much as you want. what? You know, we're constantly getting changes and updates on how we should do it and what we need to do. So it's an ongoing task that we need to be aware of. It's exciting, it's fun, but it's a little overwhelming on some days because we kind of look at each other like, oh, we just heard that, really? Okay, all right, buckle down. Now here's what we're gonna do. You just figure it out. You just do it, you figure it out. There's a way. You don't get overwhelmed by it, just figure it out, find a solution, right? Good question. Anything else or anything along that line?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
How was your work and your station different than like a WBCL or WFCV or locally any Catholic radio
Sure.
station? I know some of them are like teaching
Sure.
stations, and so I was unfamiliar with your with your program, what you're doing, and so I understand from hearing some of the things you've already said that you do
Sure.
some interviews and you have music.
Right. Well, welcome first. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've been here about 30 years, so we're not a new station.
First-time listeners.
Yeah. Welcome. We love to have you. It's so great. We're a music station, and when we kind of reformatted what we were doing a few years ago, we wanted to make sure that we didn't compete with other stations, even that were similar to us, that are Christian stations too, because we want to make sure we're trying to reach as many people as possible. So our goal was to just be mostly music. I have a segment every afternoon called Conversations, so I do a lot of interviews, a lot of authors and artists that come through local events, trying to keep us local, because for our public affairs file, you got to do local topics. So I do that also, but we try to differentiate as much as possible from other stations, not in a competition form, because we love them too. They're doing great work. But like one is an all talk station, and another one combines more talk and music, and we're trying to really focus on being mostly music because our audience is a younger audience. And those that are young at heart like you. Yeah, those of us that are young at heart like me.
My go-to guy is Michael W. Smith. So
Yes, absolutely.
All the old stuff that I grew up with, yeah.
And we love his Christmas music still.
Yeah.
I mean, you can never get over his Christmas music. But yeah, I appreciate that question, because we try to do things as different as possible. We never listen to other stations saying, what are they doing? We're going to counter that. I mean, that's kind of been my motto as a leader, to say, no, we will never do anything to hurt anybody else or to try to look like we're competing with somebody else. We really want to do our one thing and do that well. So you want to focus on that. So mostly music's what you're going to hear all day long. And we have different varieties through the day, you know, different people on the air during the day. But we don't do talk programs like we used to years ago, because other stations are doing those. So our consultant, when I became the leader of the station, I hired the finest consultant in the nation and said, tell us how to be excellent. How do we win? How do we become something that people want to come to? What do we do that's different? And he said, be different, you know, do things. So we do things like, we're the station that has song tags at the end of every song. You'll know it's us, and you'll know it's Star instantly when you hear a song. You hear Lauren Daigle's song, and then you'll hear a song tag, a voice saying, that was Lauren Daigle, you know, and name the song, whatever the song is. You'll notice that's differentiating ourselves from everybody else, because nobody else was doing that. Although another station in town, a secular station, when we first started doing that, they liked the idea so much, they started doing it. I'm like, oh, there we go. And they say something about people taking your ideas as the biggest form of flattery. I don't know. You know, they don't do it now, but they were doing it at the time. I'm like, oh, that's great. We were the only station. So we knew they were listening.
Leading in a different way.
Yes, that's right. So we try to just do as much as we can to be different. And like our Give Love campaign, like we do for Christmas, we're partnering with Parkview, who partners with us. So Curtis Smith from Parkview, most of you know him as the weatherman for years. He's now with Parkview. He and I will go out to these families and show up at their door and bless them and bring them gifts and encourage them and pray with them. It's a beautiful thing. So we've got our own campaigns of things we do different than others, and so we don't want to get in the way of what they're doing, so we try not to do anything like other people. Yeah. So does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks so much. Other good questions? A lot of great questions. Thank you. That's good. Something you're dying to know but you're afraid to ask. Yay. But I'm glad you ask about even some of the things that we have to deal with radio, because people don't always realize about FCC things that we have to do, legal things we have to do.
What about being a woman in your...
It's awesome. Oh, you mean in business? Okay. Yeah. I love it. So great. Yeah, it's a different dynamic, absolutely, and I think I've heard you talk about some of your classes too. Teachers understand that. It is a different dynamic, and I know that this video and this segment will be seen maybe for 2 or 3 years down the road, so I hope when you're watching this back that it still is great. No, it will be. Trust me, I believe in dreaming big. I know that it's harder sometimes. In my world, in broadcast world, it's a man's world. It really is a man's world, and so I'm one of few women leaders over the station or the network in our industry, and I'm honored for that. And frankly, I like hanging out with guys, so I'm okay with, you know, the business being that and having conversations with them. And I don't feel, I mean, obviously I'm not intimidated by anything, so I'm okay with that. I love being in this role, and I hope to inspire and encourage other women so that you can dream big for greater things. It's not about being a hard-nosed woman. You know, it's about being a leader, a servant leader. And honestly, women have something that men don't in that area. You know, I have a lot of great men in my life that are great leaders and wonderful, but women have something about that nurturing thing that we have that you can take advantage of if you're a woman in leadership. Don't feel like that's a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing. And I can still make tough decisions, and I can still calm the seas, and I can still, you know, hey, if people are worried, let's just, okay, it's all going to be all right. Calm people down. No worries, let's just find a solution. So I think you can be a bold, confident woman without being called a name that the world would call you and still have great success in that. But yeah, I've noticed that a few times. There are people that expect, it's okay if a man gets upset and mad about something or gets tough about something. He's being a strong leader. But if a woman's doing that, she's got an attitude. You know, she's a, you know, and I'm like, you know, I think the better that we handle this, ladies, the more we as women represent well and be good, godly women and great leaders with a great attitude, not a pushover, but just firm and confident. I think men appreciate that also, because the guys that work with me, I love working with them. They're wonderful to work with, and they know our roles. They know I've got their back. Something about your leader having your back. Be a leader that has your people's back. Be a leader that has your people's back if you're watching this. I mean, it's such a beautiful thing to have that, to know. And I want them to always know that, and they know that. I always tell them, I've got your back. And I tell my daughter that too. She knows I've got her back. Any other questions? That's good. So if you take a test right now, you're ready to answer all questions about broadcasting, right? You're like, what else? I'll just throw in a couple little things. Raise your hand, though, if you have a question. I think people think that most jobs, you know, we work 8 to 4 and 9 to 5 or whatever, and everybody's on a schedule because the office is open at this time and it's closed at this time. Our office opens at 8:30, it's closed at 4:30. Well, I'm there past that. In radio and media, any kind of broadcasting, TV or radio, it's all hours. There's no two people in our organization that work the same hours. There's no two people. So we're all like this. So I have a time where on Tuesdays, and Judy, you talked about that, about being a team. Every Tuesday, that's our team time. We have devotions together. We talk things out. We talk about what's coming up. And I'll just say, what do you need? What do you need? You need anything? We want to talk about anything? We'll address things. We'll discuss things. We'll laugh, you know. We'll watch videos of artists that we're trying to talk about and promote. We just find a way. That's our connection. I'm like, make that sacred. You know, make that sacred. So Tuesdays is when we come together because we're all different hours and all different schedules. But you can make it work as long as you feel like there's a connection and you feel like there's that time where you can connect, because I feel like we all need to see each other. There's some of us that don't see each other, you know, once or twice a week. Sometimes you can go a week without seeing them because you're different hours. The morning show guy doesn't see the other person sometimes. So I think it's important to realize you got to be flexible in this world, right? Good. Okay, other questions? Do I need to call on somebody? I'm kidding. My final word here is that I just want to say that first, thank you for letting me be here. I'm praying for you. I pray that God will open doors for you and give you favor. Pray for wisdom and pray for favor in your life. Do not pray for patience. Are you crazy? Don't pray for patience. No. You'll get challenges, you know, wonder why it's so difficult. No, pray for wisdom, pray for favor in your life, and do everything with a great attitude, and God will open doors for you like you've never imagined. And he's done that for me, and he's done that in a way that he's allowed me to have my beautiful daughter here. Lachey is my daughter over here. Raise your hand, Lachey, a little bit. Yeah, she's the joy of my life, and God brought her to me. And I'm a single adoptive mom, and we've been just the two of us Montana girls together for 19 years now almost, and it's been a great journey. So thank you for letting me be here today. Mr. Ben, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. God bless you.
Personnage dans mes tableaux, à me voir vivre en décroché. Mes idées folles devenaient lourdes.